wish I'd gotten a picture of the guy I just passed on the street. He's been around. He's a character in the neighborhood. He's got a sign that on one side of the sign it says Uranus is big, and it's a drawing of the planet Uranus. And on the back it says flat Earth, and he's a flat Earth guy. And it's just occurring to me how much I like his energy. I like his vibe. I don't agree necessarily with, the statement, but I like his energy. And I'm really tired of spiritual people. I just want to say, I have to say this. I'm finding myself just exhausted by like both ends of the spectrum, wherever the energy of knowing better is. And sometimes, frequently, that's on the side of science. It's actually like the atheistic perspective of knowing better, knowing more, knowing the truth, like being the harbingers of truth. And then on the other side, man, spiritual people self-identified spiritual people. And I've been there, holding themselves as, again, this like the harbinger of truth, like the defenders of truth. And I think there's something to that, and I'm going to get to it in a minute, but when truth is presented as objective, fact, and if you're not upholding it, you're wrong, basically, you're incorrect. If you are standing in some kind of opposition to truth, apparent opposition, because you can only be in opposition to truth when truth is a mental position. If truth is a position, if it's defined, established as a position, then there's going to be an opposite. There's going to be an opposition. There's going to be an opposite side to this. And so it creates this sense of hierarchy and conflict and tension, where one party is like the defender of truth, again, this objective stance, and the other is wrong. They're wrong. Quite simply, they're wrong. And I think I like this guy's energy because he's standing in his own truth. There's an element of like kind of trying to convince people, maybe, but he has to be a person who knows that this is not a popular opinion, but rather than being, I don't know, and I haven't talked to him, so this is just a pretty quick vibe check, but just the humor presented feels to me like he's just as happy that somebody laughs as agrees with him. There feels like a levity there that is like, this is his truth, that perhaps, this is what he feels, maybe this is his experience. How am I to know? How am I to know? And he's owning his experience. It just feels more like that. It feels more like an ownership of his experience, of maybe saying, my truth is what it is, and I know that it makes you uncomfortable, right? And maybe that's more worth you exploring. Why does my holding of this as an opinion, whatever it is, make you uncomfortable? Do you feel like you are challenged by this? Is there something in you that feels like you are the sole defender of truth, of that which is objective and undeniable? And my potentially disagreeing with that is upsetting. It unsettles that position, because that's not a secure position, if that's the case. And I've seen in myself, time and again, that the place where I feel good standing, where I feel secure, is squarely in myself. Meaning, the living of my own experience, the being of me, and acknowledging that that experience is mine. Like, what I feel here is real. And I get to decide what is true for me. I get to decide what is true for me. I get to filter, I get to receive projections, I get to receive ideas, stories handed to me, and I get to test them in myself. I get to try them on and see how they feel. And if I don't care for the way that they feel, I get to put that down. That doesn't have to be true. And I have that freedom. So there's a deeper truth that I am affirming for myself, which is that everyone gets to discern and decide for themselves what they want to be true. There's broader, deeper reality that is collective, and then there's individual realities that are overlapping. And truth at the deep level is absolute. It doesn't change. But it's not the kind of truth that could negatively impact anyone. Right? It's fundamental truth, like life is free and everything is allowed, and life grows in the direction that it desires, and it desires an increasing diversity of experiences. So it makes sense that it would sort of not split itself, but net itself into segments that are all connected, but all get to have their own individuated experiencing. And that individual desire could be born. So that desire, which appears contradictory, is allowed to coexist. Growth can happen in what appears to be opposite directions, but it's not oppositional, because it's all in alignment with the desire of a given individuated being space. So truth, there is deep absolute truth, but a part of that deep absolute truth is that what any given being space desires to be true is true in that space. So apparently contradictory truths can be held, and that is something I feel passionate about. So there is a natural inclination, a passion for the upholding of truth, but it's not truth as in a mental position about reality. It is the truth of reality, being free, being what we choose. there are fundamental truths that can be observed that have to do with just the way that this all works. It makes sense that the foundation of reality is well-being, is peace, is freedom, is life. Because if it were not that, if it were the opposite, if it were ill-being, if it were disturbance and suffering and death, this simply wouldn't be happening. Life cannot come from death. Peace cannot come from suffering. But if life is the underlying, if peace is the underlying, then that is so stable that it allows every experience to be had on top of that. Peace is stable enough to allow the experience of significant disturbance. Life is stable enough to allow the experience of what appears to be death. So there are truths that can be observed, and then this is the kind of truth that really can't be argued with and doesn't need to be stood for, because all I do when I see that is stand where I stand in my being, and see what I see. And then there is the kind of truth coming from me that is honest articulation of my experience. There is the truth that means honesty, clarity. I am subjective. I am fully inhabiting my subjective space and then speaking objectively about what is there. This is what I see. This is what I'm experiencing. This is what I observe. This is apparent to me. And so I can stand here and just say what I see and not need anybody to agree with it in order for it to be true for me. And maybe I even see, this feels like it is true for all, but it's not necessary for all to have awareness of this as truth. I have no need or room to dictate what is experienced as true by any other party. In my seeing that everything is free, I see that you are free to experience otherwise. You are free to believe that not everything is free. You are free to believe in restriction. So again, it's like there are ways in which this works, and what I look for when I'm looking at reality is what works. What actually makes sense? It makes sense for everything to be free. And therefore you are allowed to hold the opinion and the mental position that that isn't true. If everything were not free, you would not be allowed to hold an opposing mental position. That simply couldn't happen. So the fact that that happens is demonstrative of this truth. Truth is self-demonstrating, it's self-evident. So I do have a passion for truth, but it's a very subjectively experienced truth, and even when it's witnessed as something which appears generally true for all, it happens in such a way that I can see it's not necessary for anyone else to acknowledge this. There is a desire in me for it to be acknowledged by others simply because of the liberation that comes, the sense of relief and security in seeing the underlying goodness and well-being and freedom of reality, seeing that it is literally so supportive that you can believe anything, and reality will try to support that. It will do everything it can to support your belief, even when that's deeply contradictory. There's going to be a lot of tension in that process, but reality is willing to suffer in order to support what you believe is true. Now that might be changing. And it's curious that I'm feeling this as those words come out of my mouth. it's not because reality is becoming less free, but that tension can't be sustained indefinitely. Suffering cannot be sustained indefinitely. So while it's been willing to suffer, while we, as reality, as existence, have been willing to suffer in order to support viewpoints that are ultimately deeply contradictory to the truths of ourselves, it feels to me that that time may be ending. Again, not because freedom is diminishing, but because the effort required to support this, to try to support the ultimately unsupportable because it cannot be sustained indefinitely, that time is coming to a close. That energy is running out. The interest in that project is diminishing. And so there's this kind of calling home. Like, okay, we've done this. We've suffered through this, through allowing and trying to sustain the appearance of reality and truths that are ultimately fundamentally contradictory to deep truth. We've done this for quite a while. It's time to be done. We've run out of juice for this, you know. So that time is coming to a close. And I do feel that. And I wasn't exactly expecting to say that, so now I'm not really sure where this goes. Other than, I guess the only other thing that I felt like saying, because I could feel it a lot today, is pressure. There feels like an enormous amount of pressure right now. I felt some of it yesterday, and then I woke up and felt it powerfully this morning. Pressure to conform, pressure to take a position, pressure to conform is also pressure to perform. To fit, to fit in a given box. Pressure to identify, to be what is clearly defined as a spiritual person, to be what is clearly defined as an ambitious person, a purpose-driven person, a helpful person, a good person. There's this sudden reemergence of this wave of pressure to define clearly, and it's a limitation. It's like, we've shrugged these chains off. Keep shrugging, by the way, is what I want to say. Keep shrugging off the projections. We've shrugged the chains off, and they keep trying to be thrown back on. They keep trying to stick again to gain purchase. Just keep shrugging. Everything that feels like it's put on you. Everything that feels like it's put on you. Just shrug it off. Shrug it off. Nope. Don't. I've struggled with this. Maybe don't even say words to it. Don't even necessarily say no to it. Just shrug. Shrug. Wordlessly, let it go. Let it just slip right off of you. All of the projections that try to pierce you like arrows, even if you feel them, just let them through. Let the piercing happen and shrug that off. You don't have to carry that. You don't have to hold on to that wounding. You can acknowledge you felt something, right? There's an identity within you in which that weapon found purchase. Okay, nothing more needs to be said. There does not need to be analysis. You're aware, shrug it off. That's it. No analysis, no story, no judgment, just You saw it, let it go. Keep putting things down. Keep shrugging off all of the projection, all of the pressure. We're learning how to inhabit our own space, which means we do not have to take anything on. Nothing is required. This is important. These words are coming out of my mouth because I want to hear them. I want to feel them. I want to resonate with them. Nothing is required. You do not need to carry anything. You do not need to become anything. You do not need to wear anything, armor or otherwise, costumes. You do not need to put anything on. Keep putting down everything that you feel projected upon you. It doesn't matter where it's coming from. Ultimately, it's all the mind. So whether it feels like it's external or internal, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. Whatever energy you feel thrust at you, whether it is the identification of a character label of who you are supposed to be or how you are supposed to be performing, how you are supposed to be, or what you are supposed to feel, any sort of this is what you should or this is what you are supposed to, anything that is handed to you, that is put upon you, shrug it off and put it down. That's it. Just keep doing that over and over and over and over. That's the step, that's the practice. Keep shrugging. We're loosening. We're learning how to do this. We're learning how not to carry projection. It's a process. Just keep putting it down. That's all I got. I'm late as hell, so I'm gonna go. I love you. Take it easy.